Hello and welcome back to Left-Handed Crochet Lady. I'm Rachel. Today I'm going to be teaching you a simplified version of the willow stitch granny square. This is part 1, so we'll be doing rows 1 through 4, and then part 2 will have rows 5 through 7. It's very detailed, so hopefully you can get it down the first time you watch it. So to get started with the simplified willow stitch, you're going to slip knot your work. And I don't want the tail to be super long on this because I'm going to be weaving that tail into the work so I don't have to cut it off later or weave it into my work later. I don't want a lot of tails when I'm making a blanket just because it's a lot to weave in. So then you're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then you're going to just pop a slip stitch into this first chain right here. If I can get it. All right. So sometimes my slip stitch will get a little bit wonky, so I have to even it out, get it aligned again. I want that tail to be next to my work so I can weave it in as I am doing this. And then you want to have that hole in the middle right there, and you're going to be working into that hole. So we're going to chain 3, and this will count as your first stitch in double crochet. And then you're going to pop 15 more double crochets into the middle of that ring. So you have a total of 16 with that first chain 3 counting as 1. And make sure that you are weaving in that end as you go. You'll definitely want to do that because it will give you a really pretty look at the end and it will look a lot cleaner. And you don't want to worry about having to weave that into your work later once you're done with 210 squares if you're doing the full size blanket. It's pretty big. So this is definitely one of those projects that's going to take a little bit longer, but the end product will be absolutely gorgeous. All right, I'll meet you back when we are on that last double crochet, and just remember that that first chain 3, it counts as a double crochet. And as you work, you can push your work down to the side because that hole will definitely get a lot smaller as you go. Okay, so I just got done putting that 16th double crochet or the 15th double crochet into the circle because that first post doesn't count. And you have your tail, it should be back here, like behind your work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just clip that off now because unless I want to redo this, it's up to you. But I like to clip it off at the beginning so I don't have to go back and redo all of them. But if you've never done this stitch before, you may want to keep that tail just in case you want to frog your work and go back. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're going to find that top of the chain 3 that you did, and you can see this is the top right here. So sometimes people will show in videos that you're like going into the stitch itself, but I honestly just go into the hole that's there. So you can see that there's like a little gap. So I'm just going to slip stitch into that. So needle in, grab yarn, and then pull all the way through. Okay. And then you have your closed circle. So then for row 2, so every row of the willow stitch is a little bit different, but once you get it down a couple times, it gets a lot easier to do, and it just becomes very natural to do once you've done it multiple times. So for row 2, you're going to chain 4, 3, 4. Okay. And then when you look at your work, you have this slip stitch that you just did, right? So it's like where that hole is, kind of, right? Where there's that little gap. And you're not going to work into this. You're going to work into the next chain for this one, okay? So you're going to work a double crochet into that next stitch. And then you're going to chain 1, double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, double crochet into the next stitch. So this is the repeat pattern for this whole round, where you just finish your double crochet, you chain 1, because you're creating a gap in between each of these stitches, which for the next row, you'll see why we're doing that. And then a double crochet into the next stitch. So just repeat that all the way around until you get to your last stitch, and I'll show you what you're going to do for that last stitch, which is going to be right here. Okay, so you're at the end of the row. Should be looking like this, where you have all these little posts with like a gap in between them. So I'm on stitch number 15, and something that you can do if you think you missed a stitch or something for this is you can just count all of the posts to see if you have 16. Right now I have 15. So you can just count the posts with that chain 3 or that chain 4 being the first double crochet. Okay? So you just count all the way around. So that's a good little trick to learn if you're getting messed up or tripped up on, you know, how many stitches you actually put into your work. Okay, so we're going to pop a double crochet into that last one, and then we're going to chain 1 again, and then we're going to close the round by doing a slip stitch into this chain 3, chain 4. I apologize. Keep saying chain 3. That is a chain 4 right there. Okay, so you chain the 1, and again, so because this is more simplified, you're just going to pop that slip stitch into that hole, okay? So you're going to have a little bit of a gap there, but once you're done with your work, you won't even be able to tell, okay? So for the next row 3, it's going to be a little bit different. So for row 3, what you're going to do is you're going to chain 3, and that will count as your first double crochet. And then you're going to insert 2 double crochets into that hole, that gap that's right below it, right? So you just put the 2 more double crochets. So you'll have a total of 3 because that first chain 3 counts as your first double crochet. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Again, a way to count is by counting those posts. You can also count the shells, but I found that that gets a little confusing sometimes, especially when you're chaining on. So I like to just count the posts there. So for the next one, all the way around this, you're only going to be doing double crochets. That is the repeat stitch on this round. So it's not very difficult, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna go into this next post, right? So you can see that there's a post here, and there's a shell right here, and you're gonna pop a double crochet into that post. Okay. And then this is when the pattern starts to repeat itself all the way around. You're going to double crochet 2 double crochets into the gap and 1 into the post right here in this shell. So 1 double crochet, 2, you find, and what you can do is you can push your work a little bit to the side, and then you find that shell and you pop a double crochet into there. Okay, I'm going to do that again. So double crochet, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up 3 loops, yarn over, pull through those middle 2, yarn over, pull through those last 2. There's 1 and 2 into that space. And then you go to the post, look for that shell. You can look for the shell. I like to just kind of align it right here with the post itself, but it's a preference, up to you, whatever makes it easier for you. All right, so you're at the end of row 3. Should be looking like this. And you'll notice that in some areas it looks like it's lifting just a little bit, or like it's not a perfect circle, and that's okay. It will flatten out as we continue through the pattern. So if it's like that, it's okay. But if it's really, really bent in, you may have a problem, and you may need to go back and count the stitches. Okay, so what you're gonna do on this last one is you're gonna pop that last double crochet into your post, that post right there, the top of it, that shell. Get a little closer so you can see. And then instead of doing 2 into this space, a more simplified version to do this, make it a little bit easier on yourself, is to just do 1 double crochet into that last space. And it actually kind of cleans up really nice, because then these corners kiss really close to each other. And that's why we did those 3 double crochets in the beginning, because this counts as the one double crochet into the, but it ends up evening things out for this next row that we're about to do. So to close the round, you're just going to put a slip stitch into that space. I like to put it into the space. If you can get it into the chain itself, it's a little more tricky, more challenging to do. So you don't want to put it into this right here. You just want to put it into that space right there. And then we're going to go to row 4. So for row 4, it's going to definitely start looking a little bit different, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to start building the square foundation. So I like to think of this spot and another row that we're going to do in a little bit as kind of the foundation of the square itself. So you're going to start out by chaining 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you're going to skip the next 2 stitches. Okay, so it's, again, this is the beginning. So this is not a stitch. It's just 1, 2. And then on that third one, that third shell, you're going to pop a single crochet into it. Okay, so you're gonna have this little loop right here. And then you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. You're gonna skip the next 2 stitches and pop a single crochet. And then you're going to chain 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, skip the next 2 into that third one for a single crochet. And then you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip the next 2, go into that third one for a single crochet. Okay, so this is going to repeat itself for the rest of the round. And I'm going to do it a couple more times just so you can get the hang of what you're doing. So you're doing 5, 3, 4, 3. So chain 5, chain 3, chain 4, chain 3. So we're back to the 5, okay? So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Skip the next 2. Pop a single crochet into that third shell. And then we're doing 3 again. So 1, 2, 3, skip the 2, pop a single crochet into the third. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, skip the next 2, pop a single crochet into that third one. And then 3, 1, 2, 3, pop a single crochet into that third one. Okay, so you're at the last chain 3, and as you can see, there's these 2 stitches right here. And the way that I do it is I just pop my last single crochet into this right here and into the loop itself. I do a slip stitch, sorry, not a single crochet, I just do a slip stitch. So I'll show you again. So you chain the 3, and instead of putting a single crochet into this, I just do a slip stitch to bring it together. Okay, so it'll look like that all the way around